Hello my fellow animal lovers and history buffs. Pigeons, they've long played an important role in welfare, carrying life-saving messages across the battlefields, evading enemy fire and even earning medals for their bravery. And I've covered just some of their incredible stories in previous episodes, such as those of the heroic acts of Cher Ami and Winky. Now, in this episode, I explore a more peculiar attempt to harness pigeon power, and if it had succeeded, it might have changed the course of military technology forever. This is the story of Project Pigeon. During World War II, the US military faced a major challenge. Despite having plenty of missiles, there was grave concern about how they could be guided accurately to the intended targets. Enter B.F. Skinner. He was a renowned psychologist and behaviourist famous for his work in operant conditioning, in other words, training humans and animals to modify their behaviour through reinforcement. Skinner was a Harvard graduate, and he'd been making a name for himself working with animals and devising an operant conditioning chamber known as the Skinner box. That was used to study animal behaviour, and the chamber was set up to have some sort of lever and buttons in which animals would interact with the machine, and in return they'd receive a food reward or other. So in 1940, Skinner had already been working with pigeons to train them to target an object through pecking. And because Skinner knew pigeons were really smart and highly trainable, when the US military desperately needed a reliable way to bomb the enemy during World War II, Skinner had an idea. One that was brilliant as it was bizarre. Why not let the pigeons fly the bombs? Skinner's plan was straightforward. Get 3 pigeons, place them inside the nose cone of a missile, train each pigeon to peck at an image of a target that was displayed on their own individual screens in return for food. Cables were harnessed to each of the pigeons' head, and this would engage a pulley system helping to move the missile's fins. If the pigeons pecked in the centre of the screen, the missile flew a straight path. If they pecked off-centre, the missile would alter its course. So the pigeons would adjust the missile's course in real time, guiding it with remarkable accuracy. And this was over thousands upon thousands of pecks. Remarkably, Skinner's plan with the pigeons worked, and as a result, the US Army's Office of Scientific Research and Development provided funding for the project in 1943. So Skinner and his team were able to develop the concept further, and he interrupted the studies of 2 of his students, Keller and Marion Breland, to help train the pigeons. The Brelands would then go on to be famous in their own right within the animal training industry. Now, the US military gave the team $25,000. So Project Pigeon began, and Skinner and the team trained their pigeons so effectively they could track and peck at the moving targets, even when they were subjected to simulations of battlefield conditions, including turbulence, atmospheric and temperature changes, and a heck of a lot of noise. It was reported that Skinner even fired a pistol near the pigeons to see how they would respond to loud, sudden sounds, and the pigeons were unflappable. Despite the pigeon's success in testing successfully pecking at the target, and with one pigeon pecking over 45,000 times during their simulated flight, the US military remained sceptical and reluctant to put the bomb's fate in the bird's hands, or rather beaks. So the military stalled the project several times as they started to focus efforts towards electronic guidance systems rather than pigeon-powered ones. So by 1944, research into radar-guided bombs and TV-guided weapons was advancing rapidly. So the idea of using animals to guide missiles, no matter how effective the pigeons were, seemed outdated before it even began. This meant that Project Pigeon was officially ended in October 1944, and Skinner would go on to say, "Our problem was no one would take us seriously." While Skinner's Pigeon Guide missile never made it into combat, it does remain a really interesting story in wartime innovation, and it highlights the intelligence of our feathered friends and marks a turning point in military history where we saw warfare moving into an era of technological precision weapons. And you can see one of these missiles used in Skinner's experiments at the American History Museum in Washington. And what became of Skinner's pigeons? Well, they continued to work with him for several years, and they were impressively pecking away for thousands and thousands of pecks on screens, all in return for grain. So that's it from me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and it makes for a happy Hannah. And if you fancy proudly showing off your Animal Lovers and History Buffs t-shirt, then check out my t-shirts and more from shophannahgrice.com. Kisses and bye for now.